All right, we are live with the episode of the Embracing Joy podcast, and I'm so excited for our guest today, Dr. Wendy Schofer. And it's such an important topic. We're going to talk about the importance of play, even for adults. So, I will give you a brief introduction of Dr. Schofer, and then she will also tell you more about herself. So she is a joyful mom, physician, an improv comedian, and she's the founder of Family in Focus, where she helps parents to recapture the joy of raising a healthy, whole family at every size. And she really focuses on emotions and relationships as the path to lifelong health for her patients and clients. So tell us more about you, Dr. Schofer.
I am so happy to be here. And I got to tell you, as you talk about the importance of play, and I'm thinking it's even more important for us as adults to be able to embrace play. And I think that that's just part of, as I listen to the bio every single time, I just kind of have joy thinking about all the different aspects that are being hit upon there, because that's the journey that we're on right now. How can we embrace the things that all contribute to our joy? And for me, it's playing in a bunch of different areas, clinically, in the community, with my business. Quite honestly, it's just a matter of embracing, what it is that is meaningful to me, and that's joy and play.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So before we go into a little more details about how our audience and our listeners, especially those that are listening from home, or maybe you're catching the replay or you're listening live, we will start with a brief game so that we can get into that spirit of play. And it's called Mind Meld or Convergence, and it's an improv game. So Dr. Schofer, I'm sure she knows we can start without going through all the details, but we'll say a word on the count of 3 and see if we can read each other's minds.
Oh, let's do this.
All right. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Toy.
Cold.
Cold.
What did you say?
I said toy. Toy.
Toy and cold.
Toy.
Okay.
Cold. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Ready? Okay. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Sled.
Snowman. Oh, snowman. Okay, snowman and sled.
Ooh,
Okay.
ooh. Okay. And we're playing that we can't repeat. Okay. Right.
Uh-huh.
I'm assuming. Okay. Okay. Snowman.
Snowman and sled.
Sled.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Gloves.
Mitten.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. I was
Okay.
thinking mitten, and I was like, I'm thinking mitten or glove, but I'll say glove.
Synonyms count.
I think we did it. I think we're already on the same page there.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was really fast, actually. Yeah, because I was like, mitten or glove, but I'm going to say glove because I don't usually say mitten too often. So, yeah. Cinnamon, and you're right. Cinnamon, that counts. So we completed the game. That was a very fast round.
I think that might be my fastest ever. So.
So with that being said, we'll go right into discussing more of that importance of play. Like, that was a fun game. We're able to get on the same page. It was very relaxed. And we'll talk about, I want to learn more. So as a physician, right, you're a physician, but you're also, you do improv comedy. And improv comedy, it relies a lot on spontaneity and saying yes to certain moments. How has your experience with improv influenced your approach to finding more joy in everyday life or in parenting?
Whew. Okay. So I swear, like how, well, kind of like my tapestry that's on the wall, that sounds very similar to everything that you need to know, you learn in kindergarten, like that sort of thing. I swear that everything that I'm operating on right now, I basically learned in improv. There's so many things that it's kind of like unlearning the medical practice and what it needs to look like in medicine and in parenting and in life. And I joke around a lot about how, of course, when you go on to the improv stage, when you go into the studio, you start learning about the rules of improv. And, of course, always make your partner look good. Number one. Number two, yes, and like they're right there. Like they're right there. We always talk about those. And then eventually we go through the rules, and then they're like, and there are actually no rules in improv. Like all these things, you can just do whatever you want to do with it. You're making it up because we're all making it up as we go.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked into that studio very tight and like, I am a mom, I am a pediatrician, I'm a professional, I am a military officer. Like I wore all the roles. And it was really hard, really, really hard for me to try to break out of, each and every one of those discrete characters that I thought that I had to play it just right. And through improv, there's so much of learning about how, okay, nobody wants to see the perfect character ever. That is so not fun. You don't want to see the perfect doctor because what kind of character is that? Like, you want to know, like House. It's not because he's an astute clinician. It's because he is quirky that we totally adore him. That there are so many different aspects to him that, it just, I'm talking as if I've seen every single show. But there's so many more aspects to him, knowing about his personality, his flaws. And so really through improv, I've been learning about embracing so much more like, yes, and I am a physician and there's so much more to me, both in the clinical practice, as well as embracing, everything that brings me joy outside of medicine. And how can I also integrate that within my medical practice, which I think is what a lot of what I'm doing now with embracing joy and really taking the yes and yes, I love this. This is what fuels me. Movement and connection and laughter. And hold on a minute. That doesn't have to be separate from my medical practice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like I'm two different people in different places. Like, yes, that fuels me, and that fuels me over here in medicine too.
Mm-hmm. I love that, because a lot of physicians may feel they have to turn off certain parts of themselves or live in silos. Like, this is the silo where I can, I have to act a certain way here, and then a certain way at home, and then a certain way with friends. But then you're functioning as three different people rather than as one whole person, right? That's flawed and has different things going on in your personal life that you may, of course, things happen in your personal life. It may not want to affect your practice, but you can still find ways to incorporate your whole self within your practice or within your everyday, so that you're not functioning as split parts, right? So I like that you were able to embrace your whole self, through improv and through learning that there are rules, but there's also a lot of room for spontaneity and nuance, and and then just having fun with life and with and with improv and with even medicine. There's room for fun within that as well, and there's room for joy within that as well. So I appreciate your answer to that question. So let's move more into about how, many people, especially when you're high achieving, you're an officer in the Navy, you're a pediatrician, a lot of people who are high achieving and professionals, they may feel like they outgrow the ability to play, right, as adults. So what would you say to someone who believes that they're, too busy, or that, they're too old to engage in any type of play? And how can they rediscover that sense of fun?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I got to tell you, I'm not going to be the one that's going around saying, and you must do this.
Right.
So I have been going around for years saying that my goal as a physician is to never write another prescription. And people look at me like, okay, whoa, that's a
What is
little
that?
bit like
Yeah.
much. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, actually, like, yeah, I'm talking about antibiotics. I'm talking about, all the different things. Like, how can I get to prevention?
Mm.
But I'm also not going around prescribing to people how they need to live their lives. And so, that there's a lot of ways that we're starting to have prescriptions for lifestyle. And I'm a lifestyle physician. So like I totally am all about like embracing lifestyle as medicine. And yet I'm not about going and prescribing and saying, and thou shalt have play in thy life. Like, because that totally takes it away from the actual goal of like discovering what is possible for you with
Mm.
play. And I can only lead by example, I should say, live by example. As far as, it's been really a tremendous shift for me where I've gone from, living, in this role in this uniform, like it needs to look a certain way, and feeling like I couldn't bring in the play. And I kind of thought that there was something wrong with me, that I was kind of like a loose cannon. It's like, I'm just going to break out and play sometime, and it may not be at the right place. And now that I've really embraced that, I'm like, no, that's actually a key part of who I am and how I operate and how I practice. And also what is connecting, what is drawing people to me. That's part of my secret sauce.
Mhm.
It might not be your secret sauce, and that's okay, because we all have different kind of ingredients that go into what is really fueling for us, what brings us joy.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to say you need to go out and play, but I'm going to say it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing over here. So and you just get to try it out.
Mhm.
Thinking about how with kids, their job is to go and play and explore and to learn, like everything that they're learning about the world is through exploration and play. Well, that does not make sense that all of a sudden we're like, congratulations, you are now, whatever we're going to say, 18, 21, 25, whatever it is, that we all of a sudden switch it off. That
Mhm.
makes no sense. We are continuing to learn. Well, what about thinking of how play made learning so much more effective when we were kids? Because that's the most fascinating thing for me now as I think about, the educational process, how the more that I bring in play, the more that I bring in movement and creativity, the more that I learn. And so it's actually part of that secret sauce
Mhm.
again, for me.
Right.
And I just say, well, what is possible for you? What do you want to try? How do you want to
Right.
experiment with it yourself?
Right. It's great that it has been such a source of inspiration and learning for you, and a lot of us, we were all kids at one point, so we remember we remember
That's
being
one thing
able.
we can all agree on. Yeah.
Yeah, so we remember being able to play and use our imaginations in such creative ways, and have those imagination with possibilities. But I think some adults may need that permission to know that they can play, right? So it's, even if they would want to, they may feel like it's just something that they're not privy to, right? So having that like permission that, hey, it's okay to use your imagination, it's okay to
Yeah.
um, play in a way. Of course, it's, and how would you bring someone who they want to play, but they're maybe just in a place where it's been a very long time since they've tapped into their that childlike wonder that is there, because they were a kid once, so it's there, and they want to, but it's just, they're just not feeling like they have that permission? How would you help someone like that?
Well, it was funny that as you were talking about, wanting that permission or seeking that permission, it's totally ours to give ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that we can go around looking for someone else to give us that permission. And there's a lot of things where we look to the external, world and to others to, seek acceptance to make sure that things are appropriate. But ultimately, you get to give yourself that permission, no matter what it is that they say. Maybe they're just not, a play-minded kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to depend on them to give you permission for something that you're like, hey, I kind of want to check this out. I want to try it.
Mm-hmm.
Permission granted. Go experiment. And I will use that word all the time, because if it's something that you're like, well, I'm not really sure if this is for me or how I would do it, what's the teeny tiniest little bit? Something you're like, I'm just going to play with this. And I use the word play all the time in, kind of exchanging it for experiment all the time. Mm-hmm. Like, just how do we just kind of try, experiment, play, explore, whichever word works for you, but something where you can just, just dabble in it, just a little bit, just kind of seeing what is possible. Because we don't really know what's possible until we actually start doing it. Like, first, actually imagine what is that like for you to try it, but then just what does it feel like for me? Just want to dip my toe a little bit. I'm coming up with so many different ways of saying it. But just go dip your toe. Like, what would that be like to just play a little bit today? I don't know. Maybe just like get the sillies out before you go into something nobody even has to know. Get the sillies out, dance just a little bit. What would that be like? What else, comes up for you as you think about what play could look like? I got to tell you, my daughter, she inspired me for this one, because it's not always what you do outwardly. When she was probably around 10 years old, I took this photograph of how she wore everything that she loved in her life on the same day. This, Sherpa hat and, this orange dress with some gold through it, and then bright pink socks. Mm-hmm. And she wore them all on the same day. I was like, hey, what's the story there? She's like, always wear something that makes you smile. And I was like, you picked all of them on the same day. And she's inspired me, because since then, I was like, you know what? Always wear something that makes you smile. Mm-hmm. Always wear something. And that's something where I got to tell you, including today, you will find that I always have on like some kind of like silly shirt. Or you may not see it outwardly, because it might be my secret. I'm giving myself the permission. Mm-hmm. Silly socks. Love silly socks. Mm-hmm. I've got snarky t-shirts on when I go to work. Nobody has to know. I'm playing. Totally playing.
I love that. Always wear something that makes you smile. I love that. So let's talk a little bit more about with your current practice, right? So your work, you said you focus a lot on building healthy emotions with the relationships and within families. Mm-hmm. How does incorporating elements of play, how does that transform family dynamics and their overall well-being? Like, can you give an example of that maybe?
Yeah. So many examples. We have so many kind of like rules and ideas of what it needs to look like to be healthy, mm-hmm. to be raising a family, right now, to be successful at parenting, to be successful in our careers. And then it's also something that's really impacting our kids, as they're thinking that there's so many different rules of what it needs to look like, whether that's from, the community members, in their school, in their neighborhood, but also, of course, now with social media and seeing things in all sorts of forms of media. And so there's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress that family members of all ages are under. And what we start doing is really kind of looking at, well, what would it look like if you weren't experiencing that stress? Like, just like, let's say we hit like the pause button on stress. And of course, everybody's like, I'm sorry, is there such a thing? I'm like, today there is, right here. So notice we're just playing a little bit. We're just totally making it up. And in this world right now, pause, no stress. What is there? If we're saying that there's no stress, what is there? Like, to start imagining what is in that space, because we always say that we want less of everything, like less stress, when we're talking about weight loss, when we're talking about, really wanting to, kind of control so many different factors in our lives, we want less of it. But what is there when, like, what do you want more of? And inevitably, I'll start hearing about more fun, more play, more connection, more time together. And so it's something where we start playing with, what is possible, and then start seeing, well, what is it that you want more of? And then we start playing with bringing that in. So I use play actually as a part of the process of the, I would say it's a part of the conversation, because, well, I got to tell you, one of the things I talk about is emotions all the time. Nobody wants to talk about emotions. Nobody wants you to come in and go, and now we're going to talk about your emotions. They're like, oh my gosh, am I on a couch around here? What is this? Like, no, people put up barriers right away because they're like, that is uncomfortable. I don't want to do this. Well, I've got a really big, like those spin to win kind of wheels that you see at events. Oh yeah, I got one of those.
The emotion wheel.
Oh yeah, it's the wheel of emotions. I got 14 different emotions, and we start spinning and playing. And the thing is that there happens to be emotion words on there, but we start talking about everything else. I do this out at events all the time in schools. And as the kids are spinning, and adults, by the way, because it works for everyone, I start asking them about something completely unrelated, usually food, because everybody's going to talk about food. So, what's your favorite food? And they start telling me. And then I start asking, well, what is it that you can tell me that you feel whatever this emotion is that's coming up on the wheel? And we start just kind of telling some stories. We're playing. We're trying it on. We're experimenting with talking about emotions. And then we, kind of spin the wheel again. We try on some different ones. Try on, by the way, words in exchange for play, experimentation. We're just playing the whole time with emotions. And parents are in the background going, oh my God, you just got my kid to talk about emotions. I'm like, we were just playing. We're just playing. And so I think that that's one of the things that I've learned, where the more that I'm playing, the more that it's just, inviting someone to join me. Yeah, as opposed to like telling someone to do. Just inviting them. I'm having the time of my life here. Come on in. Come on in. It's a completely different environment in, the clinical office, as well as, in my practice with coaching and working with emotions. It totally diffuses it. So it's not something where it's big and heavy and folks are like, oh my gosh, you're like trying to like get into my head. No, I'm actually not. I'm just trying to play. And I'm inviting you to do that because we get to learn and discover so much more about ourselves, again, going back to childhood, when we're playing.
I think that's good. So important, right? And so important for that family dynamic to be able to play and share things that they may not have felt comfortable otherwise. It gives them a tool, right? To, once you play and you're able to tap into the different emotions, then they're, wait, maybe I can discuss this difficult thing with my family member, or maybe I do have words now that I didn't have before to express these feelings that I may have had.
And I appreciate that language for it, because I think that there's a lot about expanding the language. How can we, expand that language about emotions, and play is such a wonderful way to be able to do that. I mean, think about as we learn like foreign languages, we're always bringing in games and play to be able to do that. So it's very helpful with emotions as well.
Great. So this has been a great interview. I really enjoyed speaking with you and learning more about your practice and how you incorporate play into your practice as well as your coaching, and how it's also helped you embrace joy in your profession. And with that being said, we'll go to our wrap-up questions. And so, Dr. Schofer, who is a model of joy for you in your life and why?
Oh my goodness. Hands down, kids.
Mhm.
Like just, kids in general, as I think about like who embodies joy, I always go to, all the different children that I know, in my life. And, even I was just dropping off a prescription for my cat at the pharmacy. And I just heard this child coming in and running for the tree, and just, you could hear it in their voice. There's joy. There's joy, and they let it out for everyone to hear. Whatever that quote is from Elf. Sing it loud for everyone to hear. That's the joy of childhood. Absolutely.
And then if you were making a cake of joy, theoretically, a cake of joy, what would your top 3 ingredients be and why?
Ooh. Okay. So my cake of joy, I always think about ingredients as far as emotions. Go figure. So I think that with my joy, my joy cake is going to have layers, and there's not one better than another. So let's just say I'm going to have a layer of wonder. Yeah, a layer of wonder or awe, kind of taking in all the beautiful parts of our world. Curiosity,
Mhm.
because of course, with joy in childhood, there's always the question why. Always the question why. So curiosity,
Mhm.
and but I think the other part of it is keeping it simple, simplicity, which may not exactly be an emotion, but I think that's going to be like my rule of 3, that it's just going to be simple.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, this has been a great conversation. So, if our audience wanted to contact you or to learn more about your practice or coaching, um, where's the best place to find you? I know you have your website. It's www.wendyschofermd.com. They can find you on Facebook, Wendy Schofer on Facebook, and also on Instagram, LinkedIn, and you have your YouTube channel at Family in Focus One, right? Okay. Well, it's such a pleasure. If you have any closing remarks, you can, share them now, Dr. Schofer.
Hey, this is one of those times that I just appreciate having a very unique name. So if you type in my name and whatever your platform is, you will find me. But in particular, I would just bring you on over to the website where you'll be able to find out so much more about the different education and offerings and all the different things. So yes, please, let's connect.
Well, it's such a pleasure having you on. I know that you all listening learn more, or will give yourselves permission now, give yourself permission to embrace more play and to um, use that to light up that spark and give yourself more joy, because play is important even as adults, and we can forget that. And just even if it's something simple like silly socks or listening to your favorite song or dancing before a meeting with your door closed, whatever it is, it's uniquely yours, whatever is play to you. So make sure you like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to learn more. And of course, tune into our next episode. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.